Time is honest with the body, and nowhere is that honesty more visible than in the legs. After 60, strength does not disappear suddenly or dramatically. It fades quietly, week by week, through small biological negotiations happening deep inside muscle fibers and nerve pathways. What most people do not realize is that this weakening is not a failure of will or character, it is a predictable physiological response to reduced stimulus. Muscle tissue is alive, adaptive, and somewhat unforgiving. When it is not asked to work against resistance, it begins to economize, shedding fibers, slowing nerve signals, and subtly changing how the brain communicates with the body below the waist. The result is not just weaker legs, but slower reactions, poorer balance, and a growing distance between intention and movement. After 60, leg weakness rarely arrives as a dramatic event. It unfolds quietly, almost politely, through a series of biological adjustments that the body makes when movement becomes less demanding. Muscles are not static structures, they are living tissues that constantly measure how much they are needed. When daily life no longer challenges them to lift, stabilize, or resist gravity with intention, they begin to downsize their capabilities to conserve energy. This is not decay in the moral sense, and it is not a failure of motivation. It is efficiency. The body is doing what it has always done, adapting to the signals it receives from everyday behavior. When sitting replaces standing and convenience replaces effort, the legs interpret this as a message that strength is no longer essential. At a microscopic level, muscle fibers begin to shrink, especially those responsible for quick, stabilizing actions that prevent falls and allow confident movement. These fibers depend heavily on regular activation, and without it, the nervous system gradually reduces its investment in them. Nerve signals slow, coordination becomes less precise, and the communication between brain and muscle grows quieter. This is why many older adults feel that their legs are still present but less responsive, as if there is a slight delay between intention and action. The sensation is subtle at first, often dismissed as normal aging, but biologically it reflects a system that is receiving fewer instructions to remain sharp. What makes this process deceptive is its gradual nature. Losing strength week by week does not trigger alarm. The body compensates by shifting effort elsewhere, using momentum instead of muscle, relying on furniture for support, or avoiding movements that feel uncertain. These compensations work temporarily, but they further reduce the demand placed on the legs, accelerating the cycle. Over time, weakness becomes normalized, not because it is inevitable, but because it has been quietly rehearsed through repetition of ease. The science of aging shows that inactivity, not age itself, is the strongest predictor of muscle loss, yet inactivity often disguises itself as comfort and safety. There is also a neurological dimension that is often overlooked. The brain maintains strength by maintaining interest. When movements become predictable and minimal, the brain allocates less attention to controlling them. This reduced neural engagement contributes to slower reflexes and poorer balance, even before significant muscle loss occurs. The legs begin to feel unreliable not because they are broken, but because the system guiding them has reduced its precision. Understanding this reframes weakness not as something that happens to the body, but as something that emerges from the ongoing conversation between use and adaptation. Seen through this lens, leg weakness after 60 is not a sentence but a signal. It is the body expressing what it has been asked to do, and what it has not. The same biology that allows strength to fade also allows it to return when the message changes, because muscle and nerve tissue remain responsive well into later life when given consistent, meaningful reason to engage. The ability to stand up from a chair seems ordinary, almost invisible, until the day it requires conscious effort. Scientifically, this movement is one of the most complex and revealing actions the human body performs each day. It demands coordinated strength from the thighs, hips, and core, precise timing from the nervous system, and accurate balance information from the inner ear and joints. When someone can walk but struggles to rise from a chair, it is not a contradiction, it is a clue. Walking allows momentum to assist the body, while standing up requires pure force against gravity, generated in a short window of time. This makes the chair rise a more honest measurement of lower body strength than many other daily movements. From a neurological perspective, standing from a chair is a test of trust between the brain and the legs. The brain must believe that the muscles will respond quickly and predictably, or it will hesitate, altering posture and slowing movement to protect against falling. This hesitation changes muscle recruitment patterns, making the action feel heavier and less stable. Over time, the brain may begin to avoid fully engaging the legs, subtly shifting responsibility to the arms or the back. This adaptation keeps the person upright in the short term, but it weakens the legs further, reinforcing the very problem it is trying to solve. The chair becomes not just a place of rest, but a silent negotiator of confidence and fear. Biologically, the muscles used to stand up are among the first to weaken with age because they are designed for power rather than endurance. These muscles are meant to fire decisively, lifting the body in one coordinated surge. When this surge is no longer practiced, the muscle fibers that support it begin to atrophy, and the nerve pathways that control them lose precision. The result is a movement that feels fragmented, where effort increases but effectiveness decreases. This is why people often describe the sensation as their legs not listening, even though the muscles themselves are still present. Balance also plays a crucial role in this movement. Rising from a chair requires the body to shift its center of gravity forward before lifting upward. This transition is subtle but demanding, and it depends on accurate feedback from the feet, ankles, and hips. When this sensory feedback weakens, the brain compensates by slowing the movement or reducing the range of motion, both of which limit muscle activation. The act of standing becomes cautious rather than confident, and caution, while protective, reduces strength over time. The body begins to associate standing with uncertainty, and that association shapes how the movement is executed. When viewed as a daily ritual rather than a trivial task, standing from a chair reveals the true condition of functional independence. It is the gateway between rest and action, sitting and moving, dependence and autonomy. Training this movement restores not only muscle strength but also neural clarity and balance awareness. It reminds the body how to generate force efficiently and reminds the brain that the legs are capable and trustworthy. In this way, the chair exercise becomes less about fitness and more about preserving the fundamental ability to rise, engage with the world, and move through life with assurance. Repeating a simple chair exercise each day may appear modest, but biologically it is a powerful act of re-education for the aging body. Strength in later life is not primarily lost because muscles disappear, it is lost because the nervous system gradually forgets how to use them efficiently. When movement becomes infrequent or predictable, the brain reduces the number of motor units it activates during an action, choosing efficiency over readiness. The chair exercise interrupts this pattern by reintroducing a meaningful demand that requires coordination, timing, and control, reminding the nervous system that these muscles still serve an essential purpose. Each repetition of standing up and sitting down sends a signal through multiple layers of the body. Muscles in the thighs, hips, and core must contract together rather than in isolation, reinforcing patterns of cooperation instead of strain. At the same time, sensory receptors in the joints and tendons provide feedback to the brain about position, tension, and balance. This feedback loop sharpens with repetition, improving accuracy rather than raw force. Over time, the body learns to recruit the right muscles at the right moment, which is why movements begin to feel smoother before they feel stronger. This improvement in coordination is often the first sign that the exercise is working. From a scientific standpoint, this process is known as neuromuscular adaptation, and it occurs even when muscle size changes very little. The nervous system becomes better at activating dormant fibers and synchronizing their contraction. This is especially important after 60, when muscle growth slows but neural responsiveness remains surprisingly plastic. The chair exercise takes advantage of this plasticity by focusing on a movement the body recognizes as essential. Unlike abstract exercises, this one has immediate relevance, so the brain prioritizes learning it well. The result is strength that expresses itself in daily life rather than only in controlled settings. There is also an important metabolic effect at play. When muscles are regularly engaged, they become more efficient at using energy and regulating blood flow. This improves oxygen delivery and reduces fatigue during movement. The exercise does not exhaust the body, it conditions it. Because the effort is brief and controlled, it avoids triggering excessive stress responses that can discourage consistency. Instead, it creates a sustainable rhythm, allowing the body to adapt without feeling threatened. Consistency, not intensity, becomes the driver of progress, aligning with how aging physiology prefers to change. Perhaps most importantly, repeating this chair exercise reshapes the relationship between effort and confidence. As the movement becomes easier, the brain updates its internal model of what the body can do. Fear diminishes, posture improves, and movement becomes more decisive. This psychological shift is inseparable from the physical one. Strength returns not as brute power, but as reliability, the quiet assurance that the legs will respond when asked. In this way, the chair exercise restores coordination, trust, and functional strength simultaneously, proving that the body does not need extreme challenges to adapt, only meaningful ones repeated with intention. Fear of falling is one of the most powerful yet underestimated forces shaping movement in later life. It operates quietly, often beneath conscious awareness, altering how the body moves long before an actual fall occurs. When the brain perceives instability or threat, it shifts into a protective mode, prioritizing caution over strength. Muscles are activated incompletely, movements become slower and more rigid, and posture subtly changes to reduce perceived risk. While this response is meant to keep the body safe, it paradoxically increases weakness over time by preventing full engagement of the very muscles responsible for balance and stability. The nervous system plays a central role in this process. Balance is not only a mechanical function but a psychological one, deeply influenced by confidence and perceived safety. When a person feels unsupported, the brain limits how much force it allows the legs to generate, especially during transitions like standing or sitting. This inhibition reduces muscle recruitment and disrupts coordination. Over time, the legs are trained to move cautiously rather than effectively. The individual may feel that their body is betraying them, when in reality the brain is simply responding to an ongoing signal of uncertainty. A chair changes this dynamic in a profound way. It provides both physical support and psychological reassurance, creating an environment where the brain no longer needs to prioritize protection over performance. Knowing that there is a stable surface beneath and behind the body reduces the fear response, allowing the nervous system to release its brakes. Muscles can then activate more fully, joints can move through their natural ranges, and balance systems can recalibrate without panic. This sense of safety is not a weakness, it is a prerequisite for genuine strength to emerge. As the chair exercise is repeated in this safe context, the brain begins to update its expectations. Each successful, controlled movement reinforces the idea that the body is capable and reliable. This repetition gradually weakens the association between movement and danger. The nervous system becomes more willing to engage stabilizing muscles and to allow quicker, more decisive actions. Balance improves not because the person is forcing themselves to be brave, but because the brain has learned that the movement no longer poses a threat. Confidence grows organically from repeated evidence, not from conscious reassurance. There is also a compassionate aspect to this process that is often overlooked. Many older adults carry the memory of a near fall or an injury, and these experiences shape movement long after the body has healed. The chair exercise respects these experiences rather than challenging them aggressively. It meets the body where it is, offering support instead of demand. This approach aligns with how the nervous system heals and adapts, favoring gradual exposure over confrontation. Over time, safety becomes internalized, and movement regains fluidity. By reducing fear, the chair exercise restores the full participation of the nervous system in movement. Muscles regain their role as stabilizers rather than passengers, balance systems sharpen, and posture becomes more upright and confident. Strength returns not as something forced against fear, but as something allowed to emerge once fear loosens its grip on the body. The aging body is often described as if it were closing down, but biologically it is more accurate to say that it is becoming selective. Adaptation does not disappear with age, it becomes more deliberate, responding only to signals that are clear, consistent, and meaningful. When the legs are used less, the body interprets this as an instruction to reduce investment in strength and stability. When they are used regularly, even in gentle ways, the body responds by reallocating resources back to muscle fibers, nerve pathways, and balance systems. This responsiveness is not wishful thinking. It is a well-documented characteristic of human physiology that persists far later in life than many people assume. Consistency is the language the body understands best. A single intense effort creates noise, but repeated, manageable movements create clarity. When chair exercises are performed daily, they send an unmistakable message that the legs are still essential for survival and autonomy. In response, the nervous system sharpens its control, improving the timing and coordination of muscle activation. Blood flow to the working muscles increases, delivering oxygen and nutrients more efficiently. Connective tissues adapt by maintaining elasticity, allowing joints to move with less resistance. These changes are subtle but cumulative, building a foundation of reliability rather than dramatic bursts of strength. What emerges from this process is a shift in how movement feels. Actions that once required planning and effort begin to feel natural again. The body no longer negotiates with gravity, it cooperates with it. This ease is not the return of youth, but the restoration of function. It reflects a system that knows what is being asked of it and has adapted accordingly. The chair exercise becomes a daily reminder to the body that rising, stabilizing, and controlling descent are still relevant skills. The body responds by refining these skills rather than abandoning them. There is also a profound psychological component to this adaptation. When the body becomes more reliable, the mind relaxes. Movement is approached with less hesitation, posture becomes more upright, and attention shifts outward rather than inward. This change in mindset further reinforces physical adaptation, creating a positive feedback loop between confidence and capability. The person begins to move more throughout the day, not because they are forcing activity, but because movement no longer feels like a risk. This increase in natural activity further strengthens the legs, reinforcing the original signal sent by the chair exercise. Ultimately, the body adapts not to age, but to intention expressed through action. Gentle, purposeful repetition communicates respect for biological limits while refusing surrender to decline. The legs respond by offering stability, balance, and endurance appropriate to this stage of life. Strength becomes quieter but more dependable, less about appearance and more about function. Through consistent chair exercises, the aging body demonstrates its enduring capacity to listen, adjust, and support a life that remains actively engaged with the world.